much left the way it is from the last video. I left the peel ply on here and some of the protection from the epoxy while it cured. So you're with me now as I'm going to jump in here and start cleaning this stuff up. So we'll see. I got the clamps from, I was holding these flat pieces on. That's coming off. I'll give this the old rippy-roo. See how this turned out. Not liking something I saw. That side turned out alright. Alright, time to remove some of this material. And the brakes, I had it zip tied up here to hold in place, so I'm going to remove that and then should be able to pull this down and then get an idea of the next steps. Alright, so here we are. I've moved the zip ties. I'm kind of just wiggle this out. Let's see what kind of mess we got left behind here. Not bad, pretty solid. Once I get glass in on this side, there'll be that much more. So I got to remove this blue painter's tape, clean up these edges, and then prep for glass layups on the other side. Hopefully this blue painter tape will be enough relief to where when I glass it up, I'll be able to get the cylinders back in down here. So, all right, here we go. All right, just a quick update. I've cleaned this all up, removed the brake handle or the master cylinders, scuffed the area, kind of cleaned up the edges, getting ready for the next layup to bond in on the inside to give it structural strength on the other side. And so what I've done is I put down blue painter's tape, made like a template, and came over here, laid out my glass, and laid down the blue painter's tape, kind of a template, rough template so far, and used a cutting wheel to cut it out. So there it is. I'm going to use that to finalize what I'm looking for. I'm going to do 3 layers of bid bidirectional cloth. Probably get away with unidirectional, but I have plenty of this on hand, so I'm going to use this instead. And so, and of course, the next layers will be different sizes, so we don't have a big fat lip on the end. And so the next step is to get all 3 cut out, labeled. Then mix up some epoxy, some flocks, maybe a little macro, or micro rather, to fill in some of these smaller holes and divots and whatnot, just to give a nice flat area for that glass to lay on. And then of course going to put flocks in that fillet area to make a nice radius, and then lay down the glass, put down the peel ply, and saran wrap after that to kind of lock in, so kind of lock the air out of it. It's kind of an odd shape in here to get a vacuum bag on it, but I think we'll be fine with that. So that's my next step. I'll turn the camera back on once I'm kind of going. All right, getting ready to do my layup. Just thought I'd go over some of the things that I use and kind of my plan of action here. So first of all, I'm allergic to the hardener, so I wear a long sleeve shirt. I double glove. I also have a liquid glove on my hands, so try to minimize any kind of contamination. These are the glass cutouts that I'm going to be laying up for the supports. The blue one has got tape on it, so once the epoxy impregnates the glass cloth, that tape will come right off real easy. And what's nice about the tape being on here is it holds the shape on bidirectional cloth, so it doesn't get out of form for you when you're doing the layup. I always use a brush to help push the epoxy into the fibers. Squeegee is important to spread it around initially, and also to get the excess off. I take a tongue depressor and I cut the end off and make it square, so it helps me get into small areas flat like a squeegee. After I get the layups done, I'm going to come in with peel ply, and I'm going to dress this up, press it down on top of the layups, and what that does is it helps distribute the load of how you want it pressed out firmly, evenly. It also soaks up any excess epoxy, and it also leaves a nice, even, finished look to the layup. It does kind of mask the weave, so if you're going for a weave look, then you wouldn't want to use peel ply. And I use Glad wrap in a number of ways. One way is I use it to help if I'm doing a large layup. I'll lay this out, put the layup on it, and that'll help it keep the form as well, kind of like tape. And then once it's on there, you just peel that off. Or you can leave it on there if you've done your multiple layups, like say something flat. You can do that, apply it directly to what you're bonding, leave the Glad wrap on there, and that will help keep the air from coming out, but you'd want to do maybe the peel ply. Lastly, a lot of paper towels because things get messy, and a little trick is white vinegar. White vinegar kills the chemical reaction for the hardener and kind of stops that from getting any harder. And so I use that to do cleanup with my tools, scissors, whatever I may need, like this putty knife, so to speak. Not putty knife, but a squeegee. And this black contractor bag is what I do my layups on. One, it's real easy, just rip it up, throw it in the trash can when you're done. It helps keep things clean. when you're finished with the layups, because again, it gets messy, and I don't have to worry about keeping it clean. You know, I could just drizzle directly on top of it, and who cares where it goes. I'll also be wearing a respirator because again, I'm allergic to the fumes of the hardener and contact of the hardener and glasses. Now over here is my setup. So I'm going to probably get one more cup, but one cup's going to be pure resin or epoxy. So there's the A and B, the hardener, and the regular epoxy resin. So one will be a mixture of that. The other one will be a mixture of this cotton flocks, which is cotton fibers, which make it structural. And the other one's going to be this micro glass beads or balls or whatever you want to, you know, people call it different things. Basically, it gives the epoxy somewhat of a fill, makes it a little thicker. It's good, especially if you're going to do layups on foam. It helps get the epoxy down into the pores of the foam. So when you come back with regular epoxy in the glass cloth, it has something to bond to versus all the pores in the foam. I'm going to use a very, very small amount of that to kind of get into the holes and the divots and whatnot that are left behind from previous layups. It's not structural, so I'm not going to go crazy with it. I just want something nice for the glass to lay on versus an air bubble. I'd rather have that than an air bubble. Just a little cheap scale, and then my ratio for how much I'm going to mix up, and I just pour in until I meet those figures, and then I'm ready to go. Always, again, I'm double gloving, so I put the blue on top of the black, and I have them here. I'll probably take them over to the plane, so if I need to take my hands off of anything, you know, I could rip the gloves off, do what I need to do, come back, put gloves on, and keep going. Aftermath. So here is the table after I'm done. It's quite a mess. Unfortunately, my battery on my phone got really low and died on me, so I didn't have a charger with it. So I managed to get a quick charge back at the house and then ran back, and just so I can get this video of post-cure. So same as before, just some layups with peel ply and then cellophane on top to kind of lock out any kind of air bleeding back in. These clamps with the flats are just to kind of hold the piece, the peel ply up against it, the top and whatnot. And of course, when I come back, I'll have to clean up some of the spikes and whatnot, just because there's a lot of angles going on here. But that should be it. Nothing too exciting. I did have a problem with the template. The blue tape, for whatever reason, wouldn't release this time. So what I would advise is not to do what I did with the blue tape. You can do that to make a template, but don't apply it directly to the fiberglass. In the past, I've had it release, but this 3M tape didn't want to release like the other stuff, so it's probably just different adhesive. So what works well, I had to resort back to using cellophane to hold the shape of the fiberglass as I transferred it over. The really tricky thing about bidirectional cloth is you pick it up in the way that the kind of the cornrows show, and it just stretches out on you, and that's a bad time to have it stretch out on you when you're trying to do a layup. So the best way is to use cellophane. It'll hold it. It's actually a trick my late grandmother taught my Uncle Kim when he was building his Europa. It was to use cellophane to hold it together as you transfer, and it works really, really well. So if you're having problems holding your bidirectional cloth in the form or of the template that you want, try giving Glad Wrap a try. Anyway, that's it. See ya. Okay, it's the next day post-cure, and I wanted to do a video real quick about the different types of epoxy that I mentioned earlier. You got the micro bubbles, or the glass bubbles that's mixed in with epoxy, the flocks, and the regular epoxy. And this is, I poured them out of the cup and let them cure on the table here. This is the filler of the glass bubbles. So it's kind of a milky white color. It's brittle in a way, like it just snaps. Um, it's again not made for kind of like a structural bond. It's more for kind of like a slurry that you would use on a foam or something porous or whatnot. So I used very, very little of this just to kind of fill in some divots and whatnot that I didn't want to put with flocks. But you can see how it just snaps. There's not much to it. You could use this if you wanted to make or fabricate maybe some spacers, kind of like a fender washer or something like that. Post cure, it would be enough to distribute the load real quick and easy. Just, lay it on the table, for instance. Another use for it is, as you see here, as a kind of like a Bondo filler. You get it really, really thick, almost like peanut butter, and then you spread it on there, and then you sand it down. It's a little hard to sand, but it doesn't have the heating and expansion properties that like Bondo has, so it's a much better solution, and it's very lightweight compared to Bondo. Not that you'd use Bondo on an airplane, just as a comparison. The other one here is the flocks, the cotton fibers and whatnot. Now this is very, very stiff. The cotton fiber strands run all directions within this epoxy, and so the load is basically distributed everywhere in this. Of course, these little pieces will kind of bend and whatnot, but notice they bend versus snap. That's just regular epoxy on the ends, really thin. But you can see the kind of the white or the milky area inside. That's the cotton flocks, and this is just regular epoxy. It looks kind of white because air bubbles got mixed in as I was squeegeeing it out and running it back into the cup. It kind of comes, loaded with air bubbles, as you can see. And so, again, it could be used, if you did lay it out on the table like I did here, you could use it as maybe like a fender washer or whatnot. But you can see it is a little bit of play to it. You can bend it a bit and won't snap. Those are the three different post cures, and it's always a good idea to keep your cups after you do a layup or whatnot, just so you can test and make sure that it did cure. You can see the epoxy separating from the cup there. Real thin film. It's kind of interesting. It's really weird. Kind of fun to play with. Same with the brush. That brush isn't coming out of there without busting the cup up. And now we're looking at post cure inside. So I'm going to take this off. Well, there went that clamp. And see what we got. Moving the cellophane. Come in here, I'm going to do the peel ply. Oh yeah, that's on there. Take these clamps off. Sorry, I was looking at it and not the camera. Alright, so I'll kind of come around here. I may have to pause this so I can get my two hands on here to get this off. It's on there. Alright, hang on. I'm gonna have to sand that down. I just wanted it kind of going around the edge, around the top there. Golly, that's on there. It is hot today. Got sweat coming down in my eyes. Yeah, that's on there solid. They aren't going anywhere. Alright, just a quick cleanup. Get rid of the burrs. Now I'm going to throw the master cylinders in there. It's kind of a moment of truth. See if my planning worked out. Fits like a glove. That is perfect. So now I just need to locate where I want it vertically and then drill and mount some holes, and success. Clean it up and that is done. On to the next thing.